We are eternal. We have birthed nymphs and gods and rarer things in our day. We have been refuge to some, home to others, and evil temple to a few. Within our roots and trunks and branches, life is not only sheltered, but worshipped too. For it does not only merely exist, it is sentient. The priesthood of Demeter has seen to that since the dawn of time. We are the forest of Kitheron. We are endless. First and last breaths accountable have taught us much about our children. Not all, for there are things even we are oblivious to, but much. Our children fascinate us. Those luminous ones who walk upright most of all. And she, who on this night has been watering our floor with waters of life and sadness combined, burns the brightest. We see and smell and taste and feel through every creature and creature sharing our well of life, and through countless eyes we share the pain of the bleeding, crying girl. We are watching. Helena struggled to open her eyes. Her black hair was a tangled mess. She pushed it aside with pale, delicate hands crisscrossed with tiny scratches. She found herself staring into a landscape of ancient evergreens. The miniature wounds on her arms and legs began to fade as soon as they were observed. In her gut, the whisper of what once had been a child unborn remained, a steady echo deep within her, which could not replace what was lost. Helena forced herself up on trembling feet. A smell of timber clung to the morning mist, and beneath her the soil was moist. All around her she could hear the voices of mother's children awakening. She knew exactly where she was, yet she ached not to know. She remembered some of last night's events, yet she ached to forget. Still, fragmented senses and recollections jostled against her insides of her skull, screaming for attention and sharp enough to hurt. Hurt. She did not hurt anymore. Even though her erstwhile white dress was stained in scarlet and her bare legs and feet were smeared with rusty brown, she thought then that there was so much hurt in the world, and so little of it was physical. She felt sluggish and sore all over, as if she'd run for miles. Ugly cramps made each movement slow and torturous, but she kept walking, step after agonizing step. "My baby!" she whimpered, fresh tears welling up in eyes the color of storms. "Mother?" she half asked, half called. Her mouth moved imperceptibly, forming the most ancient of cries, and then the pain stopped, for her mind was not in it. It was the quiet which grabbed her attention. It was the silence. She stood still as the leaves on the trees, still as time during a loved one's death. She scanned the clearing, her breath caught in her chest. Nothing moved, nothing stirred, nothing whispered or sung. Helena was no novice in the ways of the forest. The woods were never silent. The whistling of the winds, the rustling of branches, the skittering of small feet, the fluttering of feathers, they were all utterly absent at the moment. As the implications of such a phenomenon began to take shape in her mind, she shivered. "It's a trial," she mused. "It's not real." New strength filled her as she realized that her suffering was a test. She could not join that most revered circle of wise women and men without proving one's worth. How could I be chosen and accepted without knowing true from false? Of course it's my year. The ancient word for the art brushed reassuringly against her lips. "Mother!" she screamed, trying to break the spell of silence. "I understand. I know you would never let me come to harm. I know you would never let a life go to waste. I know you would never abandon me," she sobbed. her anger spilling out of her eyes in hot, almost searing tears. Eyes alert, her heart pounding in her ears, threatening to explode, she seemed more feral than civilized. She strained to see or hear a sign, anything to disprove her haunting doubt. Silence there and nothing more. "How could you do this to me?" she howled, her voice rumbling in the stillness, her rage tinting her skin red. We need to be closer to her. It is often that she sings to us, and many a time we have flown, walked, and crawled beside her to unite our songs with hers. Never before has she sung like this. Never before were there thorns and fangs and red in any of her melodies. Hunt anthems, dirges of woe, the music before the silence of the prey. One of our children shares our interest and pauses to listen. It knows the cadence and the measure, and its familiarity strikes a primordial chord. We urge our child closer on silent strides till we see her with amber eyes of flesh. She turns and calls angrily. We move closer now, and our child of tooth and claw stands puzzled, for what sings the songs of prey is not prey at all. Out of the corner of her eye, she glimpsed a brief movement and instantly turned toward it. "Reveal yourself," she ordered, her tone sharp and accusing. A hound emerged, dark of fair and yellow-eyed. It pounced lightly behind the nearby bushes, coming to a halt a short distance from the girl. The canine, female by the looks of it, sat on its hind legs and stared at her. Helena had seen such beasts before, but never did those of its kind roam the woods alone. The small number of wild dogs in Kitheron tended to run in packs. The only ones left behind were very old, sick, or badly wounded. This one, though, did not appear to suffer any of these afflictions. She locked eyes with the hound, still sitting there silently within the peaceful clearing. The grey of winter wolves and tempests met the gold of autumn leaves and jewellery in the most ancient of games, a staring contest. There was no movement but the flow of small puffs of mist born of breaths, no sound but the tempo of two red drums beating in different chests. The hound sat there. It did not tilt its head in question, as dogs do. It did not hang its head low in submission. It did not loll its tongue, nor did it show teeth so as to threaten. It merely stood there, watching. There was intelligence in those eyes, sentience of a kind not found in forest animals, or in any animals for that matter, save those magical beasts of legend, the dragons and unicorns that left our earthly plane centuries ago to inhabit the realms beyond. She broke the silence. "I am a daughter of the Mother, a priestess of the bright circle," she declared, straightening her back, her tone that of a contained threat. "By ancient law and ancient blood," she reached up with one hand and tore 3 crimson lines with 3 dirty fingernails along the inside of her pale forearm. "I look upon your form and name it false." Blood welled upon 3 straight wounds. Blood run, blood dripped, and liquid rubies adorned the forest floor. She reached down for a handful of the blood-stained soil. She closed her eyes and under her breath uttered an invocation oldest than the oldest tree in Kitheron. The archaic words demanded her concentration. She smeared the grimy mixture over her eyes, masking the upper half of her face with a single fluid gesture. Blood and dirt stung, mingling with her tears, but she welcomed the sensation. "My sight is yours, let your sight be mine, let me perceive," she intoned ×3 before opening her eyes. The irritation intensified, and it was taking an effort not to squint. The once white sclera around her irises was now sore and bloodshot. Tears flowed freely on her cheeks, decorating her face with linear designs. At first, All she took in was a blur of earthly greens and browns, shapes and boundaries becoming abstract and surreal, like water lilies laboriously crafted by the hand of a French painter whose sight was failing him. She focused on the object of her interest. The colors run, and the boundaries of shapes gathered close to the dark smudge that was the hound. While everything around it remained out of focus, the still unmoving animal appeared to her in stunning detail. Her vision moved beyond its shape, discerning things imperceptible to those not awakened to the art. Helena could see every hair in its fur, feel every breath drawn into its lungs, hear the blood rushing in its veins, and taste the morning air on its tongue. The beast was unperturbed by either fear or hunger. She felt a sinking sensation, another disappointment, the demise of a tiny hope that this was a brother or sister of her circle, disguised as part of a final test. Or maybe even the Coven Mother herself, coming to placate her after a trial gone horribly wrong. She had been mistaken. What stood before her was one of the wild dogs of the forest she'd called home for the past 10 years. In these tiny fragments of time between thoughts, scenes of hours, days, and years gone were enacted in her mind's theatre. Caught in a reverie that stretched behind closed lids, she saw the smiling face of Daphne, the Coven Mother, lifting her up so she could fly as the bird she loved so much. She saw her first great ritual, when she secretly witnessed miracles that awoke her to a reality previously unknown. She saw her first fight with one of her sisters, during which she fell for a trick and lost. She saw her first fight with a brother of hers, in which she used that same trick and won. She saw him again, only now she was kissing him, and he was kissing her back. She saw the great festival and its fires the night of their mating. She saw him taking the form of a mighty boar, using the old spell of flesh change. She saw him bragging about it the day before he tried it, and her pleading against it. She saw him running into the forest, his mind gone, lost within the form of the savage animal. She saw the hunter and his son cutting her lover's life thread, never knowing what they'd done. She saw the nights of absence and guilt, and the days of life blossoming within her, signaled by the music of a tiny heart. It was only for a couple of seconds that she had shut the world out, simply to be dragged painfully back into the present. She cringed, marring her beauty even more. The anguish those memories had brought caught like wildfire inside her, and carried with them a deeper kind of suffering. Fresh streaks of water and blood smeared her cheeks, running downward, falling and splashing against soft earth. Clenching her teeth, she got hold of that suffering. All pain serves a purpose, she thought, as she strained her back and stood with her eyes still closed. The pain in her arm had linked her to the physical object of the sight. The pain of the soul, however, was hurled to different sights. She forced her lids to open up, and twin eclipses appeared where moments ago was tearing sadness. Her sight was strong, taking everything in, hungry as the abyss. Gone were the earthly chorus of familiar shapes. The naked power coursing through everything became visible in bright swells and bursts. Currents of liquid luminance, some resembling streams in size and others small as rivulets, made everything part of a greater whole. The very essence of all was dancing before awakened eyes, and the sheer terrifying beauty of it all made Helena's expression soften a little. It was awe-inspiring. Being attuned and able to feel the primal energy called pnoi, breath, by the witches of Kitheron, was one thing, but witnessing the endless spiral of creation with one's own eyes was quite another. She focused on the hound once more, and her jaw dropped. It was as if the threads of light and energy, stitching everything together, had coalesced above and about the shape of the still animal. Only a gentle, steady pulse, coming from everywhere at once, answered her question. She felt as if she were roaming the chambers of a giant heart, pounding slow and calm. She sees us. She may not know what she's staring at, but she is watching us back, and that is good. Her song has lost its thorns and teeth and dread. She understands that she is not alone, and that is good as well. The circle starts again. She is afraid, but not scared. A good way to start a circle. Everything has 3 forms, 3 shapes, 3 guises. All of them real, beautiful, and necessary, her Coven mother used to say. One is for the eyes to see, one is for the heart to gaze at, and one only the mind perceives. It was more than mere memory, though. Helena actually half turned, expecting to see Mother Daphne reciting the words of a lesson taught many years ago. She felt her presence, but at the same time, she felt her absence as well. She longed for something tangible, something she could be able to define. The chaotic dancing of kaleidoscopic luminous threads all around her was not offering any answers. Helena wanted answers more than anything now. And then it started. It began with the trees, their forms appearing in their entirety, roots and all. The woods made themselves visible as streaks of honey-colored light weaved into still lightning, caught in a vertical reflection without beginning or end, the ground on which the girl stood serving as the mirror. More changes were taking place all around her, occurring just beyond the corner of her eye. She turned and marveled at the transformation of it all. The hazy blue of the morning sky was now a striking azure, and every plant her eyes met was dressed in the richest green she'd ever laid eyes upon. Fruits and flowers of every kind flickered in the bright sunlight snaking through the branches, even though no sun shone in the peculiar crystalline sky. Smells grew stronger and more pronounced. Helena could taste various aromas lingering on her tongue and the roof of her mouth. The breeze whispered words she did not understand. To her, it sounded like leaves caressing one another, in a movement not unlike love-making. All was vibrant, alive, and significant. She felt the presence while her back was still turned to the strange hound. Something inside her feared for what she might see, and for a fraction of a moment, she hesitated to turn. "Fret not, daughter, mother." 100 women's voices, maybe more, spoke in perfect harmony, and as they did, all noises softened and drowned. The sound made Helena's bones vibrate to the marrow, brought tears to her eyes and goose flesh to her skin. Dry-mouthed and tongue-tied, she slowly turned and craned her neck to gaze upon the origin of the chorus of voices. Her mind strained to come to terms with what she was seeing. A woman standing taller than the trees, her nude figure partly covered with grass and moss, partly with bark and cascading water. Green and brown and blue merged and intertwined upon her frame. A kaleidoscope of butterflies adorned her right shoulder like an exotic ornament, and one of them strayed, only to rest momentarily on the nose of the hound, currently sitting at the apparition's feet. Helena's eyes took in the majestic form moving from the feet upwards until they reached the head. Yet upon that head, not one, but 3 faces dwelled. On the left side, a bright halo of gold and silver blurred the lines and contours of what appeared to be the face of a young woman, terrible in its comeliness. In the middle, facing Helena from above, rested the visage of a benevolent woman in her prime, congruous and sublime in its beauty. The third face gave sidelong glances at the open-mouthed girl standing below. It was weathered and old and made of a dark, hardened bark. Hecate? Helena stammered and would have fallen to her knees had she not been paralyzed. Her feet felt glued to the ground. Her arms hung limp by her sides. Only her training and her tutelage under the coven of the Bright Circle saved her from collapsing from accumulated shocks. We are the light, the dark, the flesh and the blood, the soil and the sky. We have been called thus in the past, though, and the sound of it is pleasing, but it is not our name, for we have no need for such human inventions. Helena felt humbled, even a little naive. The great goddess was indeed beyond naming, she thought, trying to regain her composure. The triple-faced queen of heaven and earth, the pillar of creation and the embodiment of magic, had manifested before her. But for what purpose? Could it be that she heard Helena's plea and partook of her pain? She was an anointed priestess of the Bright Circle, and tradition stated that Hecate, patron and mistress of the art, watched over those who honored her in thought and deed. Helena took courage from this and decided to properly address the entity. She knelt and bowed low. "Great One," she intoned with eyes shut, "you who are all and all that is you, I praise you and in my heart accept you." She paused and lifted her head, opening her lids. "Keeper of the keys to the universe, mistress guide, nurturer of youths, great goddess." "You have sung to us before," the apparition cut her off. "You have sung better songs, truer songs, songs not filled with meaningless words." Helena stood and stared, her mouth hanging half open in panic. "Forgive me, great goddess." "What is forgive, and what is goddess?" She took a step back, never registering that she did so. A whirlwind of thoughts and questions impeded her ability for forming words. How could this great and terrible presence not know what it was, and how could something as simple as the notion of forgiveness elude a goddess's knowledge? What if she and all the priesthood had been wrong? What if the great deities were completely alienated and oblivious to the human condition? What if it wasn't Hecate that stood before her now, but something far more ancient and detached? What should she do? What could she do? Fear and helplessness threatened to overwhelm her. "Daughter, mother, there is no need for your light to wear the fear color, nor the sadness color, for even we do not know the answers to those questions." The apparition spoke again, with its chorus of voices. "And these are not the answers we seek." Helena remained silent for a while. There was something vaguely familiar about the voices, something eerily intimate that unwittingly made her relax a little. Or perhaps it was just a measure of the entity's power over her. None of those things crossed the young priestess' mind, though. She only listened to the voice of the many who were one, and when its echo subsided, she spoke more calmly than before. "Great Mother, if I may call you so, what are the answers that you seek, and why did you come for me?" "We came for no one, for we have always been here," the manifestation replied. "We merely watched you, as we have done since the day you came to us. We watched you and were intrigued." The reply caused Helena even more confusion and gave birth to even more questions. She had no use for riddles. Of course, she could not reprimand such a powerful being, nor could she make demands of it. She decided to try a different approach. "Great Mother, I implore you, help me get my child back, and I will comply with any task you may ask of me. I will perform any service within my power in your name." Her tongue stuck on the roof of her mouth, and her eyes straight from the towering incarnation. "You sung that song last night," said the voices, but Helena's mind was already remembering. The night had fallen heavily outside the bonfire's light. The coven had gathered under the great heart tree, the center of Kithaeron's power. Legend has it that the same tree has stood there since the first priestess set foot in the ancient forest, and that she rests there beneath its roots, along with all the high priestesses who came along after her. This night, Mother Daphne was joining them. The wizened woman lay there, quiet and serene as her children stood around her, their faces set, lit by the dancing flames. Only one remained beside her, holding her hand. A black-haired girl, her belly swollen with new life, the one ordained by ancient custom to succeed the elderly priestess as the new mother of the coven. Helena, though, felt neither ready nor worthy yet. She had already recited the hymns of passing, her sisters and brothers joining their voices with hers in this final ritual, and for the past 5 minutes she had stood there, quietly feeling the pulse of the most generous heart she had ever encountered slipping away. Helena was indeed gifted in the ways of magic, as few of her age were, surpassing in skill others twice her years. She took pride in that, and that pride could not accept what was happening. It was then and there that she decided she could not let this come to pass. What use is the power of life, she thought, if it cannot even postpone death? Helena waited for the other members of the circle to depart, politely declining any offer of company or comfort. When everyone was gone, she got to her feet, looked decidedly at Mother Daphne's face, and called upon the great goddess to aid her in a spell more difficult than any other. "Oh, great mother," she began, "I implore you, help me get this life back, and I will comply with any task you may ask of me. I will perform any service within my power in your name, and any sacrifice it may require. By the power of 3 times 3, as is my will, so mote it be." She felt not one, but 2 hearts quickening within her. "So mote it be." She reached out to steady herself, her hand touching the ancient tree. "So mote it be." Channeling raw quintessence from the well of potent energy, power coursed through every muscle, cell and fiber of her body. Everything became light and pain for an instant, and then nothing but darkness and oblivion. It felt nothing like life. It felt like death. Her song stopped a while ago, and her wide-open eyes do not see us now. We watch her stumble and fall as her light takes on colors of sadness and pain so intense that we have never seen its like before. She lies on her side upon our earthly floor, shaking. Her knees fall close to her chest, imitating an offspring in the womb. Her face is set in a soundless scream, but not a single tear waters our soil. We understand her weakness. The girl has neither fed nor drunk, and her sleep had not been a restful one. We let sustenance fall from our branches, aided by the morning wind, but she pays no heed to our ministrations. We miss her song, and we wait patiently for her to find her strength again. Helena had no more tears to shed. A dry heave was all she could manage in that hour of guilt and shame. "It is all my fault," she thought over and over again, rocking and shivering, her eyes red and bulging but seeing nothing. "I killed them both, my mother and my child. My baby," she kept repeating inwardly, like an incantation of despair, and the realization sunk further inside her, like a horse in the swamps of sadness. "I do not deserve life," she thought fervently, letting out a breath she wished could be her last. "Daughter, mother," Kithaeron said, its many voices coming from everywhere at once. Eat of us, and drink of us, and sing to us the cause of your pain, for you bear no wounds, and still you suffer. We can feel it. These are the answers we seek. What is it that you think you lost? And why do you hurt? Yet all that Helena heard was a slow, persistent drumming, blurred by echoing voices. The young girl had strained her mind, body, and soul beyond belief, and was about to give up when a particular echo of a particular voice brought her back, as the song of Orpheus had brought Eurydice back from Hades. She had noticed it before but disregarded it. It was unmistakably familiar. Among the chorus of voices, one doubtlessly stood out. "Mother Daphne?" Helena hesitated. "Is that you?" she whispered, sounding haggard and incredulous. Silence followed, interrupted solely by a soft, ever-present heartbeat, pounding the moments away. "You have yet," the forest said, "to sing the answers to our questions." More moments passed, more heartbeats. I lost my baby," Helena breathed while kneeling. "I lost you, Mother Daphne, my mother, and it's all on me," she confessed, broken and resigned. "Could it be that you have lost your eyes and ears, or is it perhaps that all we have taught you was in vain?" Those last words bore all the characteristics of the late Coven mother's chastisement. Helena's mouth snapped shut, and she remained there pinned, as if time had turned back and she was a young initiate once more. Before uttering a word, the voice went on. "Not once have we seen you drop a tear when the sun leaves us each day, never to return the same. Not once have we watched you cower in fear when frost claims our children after the days of warmth." "I," was all that Helena managed before the chorus spoke again, Mother Daphne's tone rising just enough to be distinct. "Eat, drink, see, and listen, then sing." Reluctantly, the priestess picked up some seeds from the broken pie cones lying near her. With the same reluctance, she ate them. The first time she had tried eating such seeds, they had been offered by Mother Daphne's hand. With the voice still ringing in her ears, chewing out the seeds, her mind travelled back to that time. The recollection made her start, realizing that she had been standing in the exact same spot when her mother had fed her, realizing that, after 10 years, she still did. The seeds clung to her dry throat, which felt sorer with every swallow. Instinct and years of instruction took over and guided her steps nearby to drink from the morning dew that pooled on large green leaves. Refreshed, she came to her senses, the world of spirit and the triple-faced apparition fading away. The sounds of the forest slowly rushed back, reaching a crescendo when she noted the absence of the hound. Helena's mind glowed aflame with ideas, thoughts, feelings, and memories as she stepped lightly across the clearing. She did not feel alone or abandoned, and that caused her shame, confusion, and guilt over a strange kind of joy. She could feel her now. Somehow she could smell her, as if she was standing right next to her. Mother Daphne was there, and at the moment of that specific thought, Helena noticed it. Still there, still drumming, the ever-present heartbeat, rapid, energetic, fluid and strong, but also intimately familiar. A mother never forgets the sound of life once she has carried it. That sound now came from all around, reverberating through the soles of her bare feet, riding the wind, dodging the trees to reach her ears. Unwittingly, she let salty droplets water Kithaeron's soil once more, but those were birthed out of a different feeling altogether. "My child," Helena said breathlessly, talking to the forest as soft rain began to fall, blending with tears of profound joy. "Life begins from the heart," Mother Daphne had once said, tapping on Helena's small flat chest. "This is mine," she added, taking the girl's little hand into her own and placing on the trunk of the great heart tree. "And it is endless."